Zora's Trial and Exile. In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, a tense silence fell as Zora, a young Zephyrian rebel, stood trial for her crimes against the intergalactic order. Her iridescent purple skin and fiery red hair stood out among the muted tones of the council members' robes. Zora of Zephyria, the booming voice of the High Counselor echoed through the chamber. You stand accused of inciting rebellion and spreading dissent against the Galactic Council's rule. How do you plead? Zora lifted her chin defiantly, her emerald eyes blazing with conviction. I plead guilty, High Counselor, but I assert that the Council's laws are unjust and oppressive. I fought for the rights and freedoms of all species, not just the privileged few. Murmurs rippled through the gathered council members, some nodding in agreement while others scoffed at her audacity. The High Counselor narrowed his eyes, his wrinkled blue skin creasing with disapproval. Your ideals are admirable, young Zora, but your methods are misguided and dangerous. You sow the seeds of chaos and threaten the delicate balance we have maintained for eons. He paused, letting his words sink in. As punishment for your crimes, this council sentences you to exile on the primitive planet Earth. There you will serve a human master and learn humility and obedience. Zora's heart sank at the prospect of being stripped of her freedom and sent to an unfamiliar world. Yet, even in the face of this daunting sentence, she refused to let her spirit be broken. She would find a way to survive and continue her fight for justice, no matter the odds. As the guards escorted her from the council chamber, Zora steeled herself for the journey ahead. Earth, with its strange customs and technologically inferior inhabitants, would be a challenge unlike any she had faced before. But she was determined to rise above it all and prove her worth, not just to the council, but to herself. Little did Zora know that her exile would set in motion a chain of events that would change not only her own destiny, but the fate of the entire galaxy. On Earth, she would find an unlikely ally, forge an unbreakable bond, and ignite a spark of hope that would illuminate the darkest corners of the universe. Fateful meeting with Grayson Hawk. Zora stepped off the sleek Galactic Council spacecraft, her senses immediately assaulted by the unfamiliar sights, sounds, and smells of Earth. The air was thicker here, leaden with a mix of industrial pollutants and the sweet scent of alien flora. She squinted against the bright sunlight, her eyes slowly adjusting to the vibrant colors of the terrestrial world. Awaiting her at the designated landing site stood Commander Grayson Hawk, a tall, broad-shouldered human with short, dark hair and piercing blue eyes. He appraised Zora with a mix of curiosity and caution, his posture rigid and his expression guarded. Welcome to Earth, Zora of Zephyria. Grayson greeted her, his voice deep and authoritative. I am Commander Grayson Hawk, your assigned master for the duration of your exile. I expect you to follow my orders and adhere to the rules of this planet. Is that understood? Zora met his gaze unflinchingly, her pride bristling at the idea of being subservient to anyone, let alone a human. Yet she recognized the necessity of cooperation, at least for now. Yes, Commander Hawk, I understand. Grayson nodded curtly, then gestured for her to follow him. As they walked towards his vehicle, a sleek, black hovercar, he briefed her on her duties and responsibilities. You will assist me in my work as a military strategist and diplomat. Your knowledge of galactic politics and alien cultures will be invaluable in navigating the complex relationships between Earth and other worlds. Zora couldn't help but feel a flicker of excitement at the prospect of utilizing her skills and experience, even in this limited capacity. Perhaps her exile wouldn't be as bleak as she had initially feared. As the days turned into weeks, Zora found herself settling into a routine at Grayson's side. She accompanied him to meetings with Earth's leaders, offering insights and advice that earned her grudging respect from her human colleagues. In the evenings, she pored over ancient tomes and digital archives, learning all she could about Earth's history and culture. Grayson, too, seemed to warm to her presence, his stern demeanor giving way to moments of genuine curiosity and even the occasional flash of humor. They engaged in spirited debates about the nature of power, the responsibilities of leadership, and the possibilities for a more just and equitable future. One fateful night, as they worked late in Grayson's study, an urgent communique from Earth's planetary defense network shattered their newfound equilibrium. A rogue asteroid, undetected by long-range sensors, was hurtling towards the planet's surface. With only hours until impact, Zora and Grayson raced against the clock to devise a plan to deflect the celestial threat and save millions of lives. In that moment of crisis, the barriers between alien and human, master and servant, melted away. They worked as equals, their minds and hearts united in a common purpose. And as the asteroid veered off course, missing Earth by a hair's breadth, Zora and Grayson shared a moment of profound relief and unspoken connection. Little did they know that this near catastrophe was merely the prelude to a far greater threat lurking on the horizon. A threat that would test the limits of their newfound partnership and force them to confront the very foundations of the galactic order. Hunted by the Zephyrian assassin. In the shadowy depths of the Zephyrian nebula, a cloaked figure stood before a holographic projection of the Galactic Council. The figure, a lithe and deadly Zephyrian assassin known only as Rezeric, bowed his head in deference to his masters. Rezeric, the distorted voice of a council member echoed through the chamber. We have a new mission for you. Zora, the rebel you once trained, has become a liability. Her exile on Earth was meant to break her spirit, but reports suggest she has found an ally in her human master. This cannot be allowed to continue. Rezeric's eyes glinted beneath his hood, a predatory smile playing at the corners of his mouth. What are your orders, counselor? Eliminate Zora and anyone who stands in your way. Earth must learn the consequences of harboring a traitor to the Galactic Council. With a final bow, Rezeric accepted his mission and set a course for Earth, his heart filled with a twisted sense of anticipation. He had always known that Zora's idealism would be her undoing, and now he would have the pleasure of being the instrument of her destruction. On Earth, Zora and Grayson had fallen into a comfortable rhythm, their once tense relationship blossoming into a genuine friendship. They spent long hours in each other's company, sharing stories of their pasts and dreams for the future. Grayson taught Zora about Earth's customs and traditions, while she regaled him with tales of the wonders and horrors of the wider galaxy. But their peaceful existence was shattered when Rezeric made his presence known, leaving a trail of destruction and death in his wake as he hunted Zora across the planet's surface. Grayson, drawing upon his extensive military training, took charge of protecting Zora and uncovering the assassin's true motives. As they raced from one hiding place to another, always staying one step ahead of Rezeric's relentless pursuit, Zora and Grayson were forced to confront the depth of their feelings for each other. In stolen moments of quiet, they found solace in each other's arms, their bond deepening with every shared glance and gentle touch. But Rezeric was closing in, his superior Zephyrian technology and brutal tactics making it only a matter of time before he caught up to his prey. In a desperate gambit, Zora and Grayson laid a trap for the assassin, luring him into an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of a sprawling megacity. In the ensuing confrontation, Grayson's quick thinking and Zora's intimate knowledge of Zephyrian weaknesses proved decisive. Together, they outmaneuvered Rezeric, disarming him and forcing him to reveal the true extent of the Galactic Council's corruption. But their victory was bittersweet, as Rezeric's final words hinted at an even greater danger on the horizon. The Council, he warned, would never allow a human and a Zephyrian to challenge their authority. They would stop at nothing to maintain their grip on power, even if it meant plunging the galaxy into war. As Zora and Grayson stood over the fallen assassin, they knew that their journey was far from over. They had survived this trial, but the road ahead would be fraught with peril and sacrifice. And yet, in that moment, they drew strength from each other, their love a beacon of hope in the gathering darkness. A forbidden love blooms. In the aftermath of their confrontation with Rezeric, Zora and Grayson found themselves grappling with the profound realization of their love for one another. It was a love born of shared adversity, of mutual respect and understanding, and of a deep, unspoken connection that transcended the boundaries of species and culture. But even as they reveled in the warmth of their newfound affection, they knew that their love was forbidden by the strict laws of the Galactic Council. A human and a Zephyrian, two species from opposite ends of the galactic hierarchy, were never meant to be together. The Council's edicts were clear. Such a union was an abomination, a threat to the very fabric of their society. Grayson, ever the pragmatist, struggled with the implications of their relationship. He knew that loving Zora could cost him his career, his standing in the military, and even his life. And yet, when he looked into her emerald eyes, saw the fierce intelligence and unwavering compassion that burned within, he knew that he could never let her go. Zora, for her part, found herself torn between her love for Grayson and her commitment to the cause that had defined her life. She had always fought for the rights of the oppressed, for the idea that all beings, regardless of their origin or status, deserved to be treated with dignity and respect. How could she turn her back on those ideals now, even for the sake of her own happiness? In stolen moments, they met in secret, sharing tender embraces and whispered promises of a future together. They dreamed of a world where their love would be celebrated, not condemned, where the rigid hierarchies of the galactic order would give way to a new era of equality and understanding. But their bliss was short-lived. The Galactic Council, alerted to their forbidden romance by a network of spies and informants, moved swiftly to stamp out this threat to their power. They issued an ultimatum. Zora and Grayson were to end their relationship immediately, or face the full wrath of the Council's retribution. Grayson, his heart heavy with the weight of the decision before them, urged Zora to abandon their love, to save herself from the Council's punishment. He would bear the consequences of their actions, he told her, if only to ensure her safety and freedom. But Zora, her spirit unbowed by the Council's threats, refused to back down. She had spent her entire life fighting against injustice, and she would not abandon that fight now, not even for the sake of her own heart. If the Council wanted to destroy them for daring to love, then they would face that destruction together, hand in hand. In that moment, Grayson knew that he could never let Zora face this battle alone. He had sworn an oath to protect and serve, and he would honor that oath, not just for the sake of his planet, but for the sake of the woman he loved. Together, they would stand against the Council, against the very foundations of the Galactic Order, and fight for a future where their love could flourish in the light of day. Challenging the Galactic Order. Word of Zora and Grayson's forbidden love spread like wildfire across the galaxy, igniting a firestorm of controversy and debate. To some, they were heroes, brave rebels who dared to challenge the oppressive rule of the Galactic Council. To others, they were dangerous radicals, threatening to upset the delicate balance of power that had maintained peace and stability for millennia. But Zora and Grayson knew that they could not stand alone against the might of the Council. They needed allies, supporters who shared their vision of a more just and equitable future. And so they began to reach out to the disaffected and the marginalized, to the rebels and the dreamers who had long chafed under the Council's iron fist. Across the galaxy, a movement began to take shape, a loose coalition of humans and aliens, united by a common cause. They came from all walks of life, from the gleaming towers of the core worlds to the grimy streets of the outer rim. They were soldiers and scientists, artists and engineers, all bound together by a shared sense of purpose and a fierce determination to break the shackles of the old order. As the movement grew in strength and numbers, Zora and Grayson found themselves at the center of a maelstrom of change. They spoke at rallies and conferences, using their unique perspectives to inspire and galvanize their followers. They negotiated with planetary leaders and powerful corporations, forging alliances and securing resources for the cause. And all the while, the Galactic Council watched and waited, biding their time until the moment was right to strike. They knew that Zora and Grayson's rebellion posed an existential threat to their rule, and they were determined to crush it, no matter the cost. The final confrontation came on the floor of the Galactic Assembly, in the heart of the Council's power. Zora and Grayson, flanked by a delegation of their most loyal supporters, stood before the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds, ready to make their case for change. In an impassioned speech, Zora spoke of the need for unity and understanding, for a galaxy where all beings could live in harmony, free from the shackles of oppression and prejudice. She spoke of the power of love, of the way it could bridge the gaps between species and cultures, and of the way it had transformed her own life and the life of the man she loved. Grayson, his voice ringing with conviction, called upon the assembly to reject the Council's tyranny and embrace a new era of cooperation and equality. He spoke of the sacrifices that he and Zora had made, of the trials they had endured, and of the hope that they held for a better future. And as they spoke, something remarkable began to happen. One by one, the representatives of the assembly began to rise, their voices joining in a chorus of support and solidarity. Species that had long been bitter enemies found common ground in the face of this shared vision, and ancient rivalries gave way to newfound understanding. In the end, the Council was forced to concede defeat, their power crumbling in the face of this unprecedented show of unity. And as the galaxy celebrated the dawn of a new era, Zora and Grayson stood hand in hand, their love a shining beacon of hope for all who had been oppressed and marginalized. In a ceremony that was broadcast across the stars, they exchanged vows of love and commitment, their union a symbol of the new order that they had helped to create. And as they sealed their bond with a kiss, the galaxy rejoiced, knowing that a brighter future lay ahead, a future forged in the crucible of their love and sacrifice.